Good afternoon. Our speaker for this session is Dr. Putul Sathe, Associate Professor and Head, Center for Women's Studies, SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. The title of her talk is Notes on Engagement with Dalit Feminist Political Thought. We welcome you, madam, and invite you to please begin the session.
So good afternoon, everybody. To start with, I thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in this workshop. I was just listening to the last this paper presenter, and I thought, good. In fact, I'll be continuing with some of the points which she has raised. Now, the topic which I have chosen is Dalit feminist political theory. Now, at the very outset, I think I should clarify that this is a vast topic. This is also evolving, and it is also a complex one. It is also a complex one. So I have tried in my brief presentation of about 30 to 35 minutes to raise two issues which I think were something which was relevant. The first issue which in fact I'll focus on will be the point of Dalit difference. And the second will be to understand the impact of the perspective which has been provided by this Dalit feminism on this institutional pedagogy. Now, the second point I have deliberately chosen because I think it is quite important to me from the I'm trying to, in fact, then what I have to do is I'll have to log out and log in. Should I do that, Mona Lisa?
No, ma'am. I addressed that to Poroma, one of the participants. It's okay. You can continue.
So basically, I would like to look at the impact of this perspective which has been thrown up by Dalit feminist political theory and its impact on this institutional pedagogy. So basically, for me, I'm from Maharashtra. I have seen the Dalit women's movement. I also teach in a university which has many first generation Dalit students coming. So I think this is a very important issue because it basically relates to the whole issue of the citizenship, and also how we can work towards making our higher education spaces more inclusive at a time when we can see that neoliberal policies are almost sweeping and almost reshaping the higher education space. So now I start with my presentation. Yeah. So Dalit. Dalit feminist political theories, as has been pointed out by many scholars, underscore the epistemological disadvantage of the unmarked Indian feminist movement. Now, this is an observation made by S. Anand in 2007, and it also draws attention to, quote, the politics of difference. This is Gopal Guru, and it marked the rise of the term Dalit women. According to Vidyut Bhagwat, by using the term Dalit women, we are creating an imagined category. Quote, she says that this imagining is necessary because we hope that Dalit women in the near future would give new critical dimension to Indian feminist movement and as well as to the Dalit movement, unquote. Now, we know for a very long time Dalit women and Dalit activists have been pointed out to the absence of gender within the Dalit movement, and which is even valid still now also. So then you have Sadhna Arya in her book Gaining Ground, who has pointed out that Dalit feminist politics emerged as a discourse of discontent, and the articulation of difference can be seen both in the manner in which certain issues have been prioritized and also in the conceptualization of violence, especially sexual violence, violence against Dalit women, and also in the understanding of marriage, family, and of marriage, family, and community as institutions of oppression, Basically, this also brings to the front the whole notion of the public and the private, and also on the questions of labor performed by Dalit women through the practice of untouchability, and that too located within the patriarchal caste structure. So according to Sadhna Arya, this discourse brought caste to the forefront of understanding patriarchy and to the criticality of gender in order to understand caste, unquote. So basically, this is one particular perspective which has been thrown up, and I think this particular perspective has been very well taken up by Vandana Sonalkar in her memoir titled "Why I'm Not a Hindu Woman." Okay, the next point which I would like to point out is that basically the perspective offered by Dalit feminist political thought has also brought to the forefront. It has not only critiqued the manner in which mainstream this Indian women's movement has remained unmarked, has not engaged with caste, but it has also brought to the forefront certain issues and certain, you can say, issues, and this is related to the manner in which violence, sexuality and labor in the context of life experiences of Dalit women have been understood. Now I'll just refer to three you can say cases which has brought to the forefront the whole, you can say, which has almost challenged the whole homogeneous understanding of this Dalit, of, you can say, Indian women's movement. The first is the issue of the bar dancers. Now this was the ban which was imposed by government of Maharashtra in 2005. Now this ban came at a time when women's movement was reflecting on the question of prostitution. Mind you, in fact, I'm not using the word sex worker, and looking at the struggles of sex workers from the perspective of workers. It was during this time that the terminology shifted from prostitutes to sex workers, and in the process, it basically highlighted the construction of sexuality, stigmatization of sex workers, the entitlements of the rights of the sex workers, and also issues related to social security. So the ban was basically opposed by women's groups, sex workers' rights group, and also the bar dancers themselves. However, the Dalit women's organization supported the ban and saw the ban as a way out for women who were coerced into continuing their caste-based occupation of basically providing sexual services. They rather brought out and they asked the question of choice and agency, especially when it was related to the lower caste women who had almost no choice when it came to joining or basically working as a prostitute. So Dalit feminists over here focused on the issue of structural violence in the caste-based linkages between sexuality and labor, and opened the debate on, quote, caste and sexual labor, caste and labor, and sex workers and also sex workers as labor, unquote. This tension, in fact, I would like to point out that this tension still continues. And in fact, in the article written by Abhinaya Kamble, in which has been published in EPW 2017, she is pointing out to the points of tension between this Dalit women organizations and what they term as Brahminical or mainstream women's organization. Now, basically, what she refers to is the famous 2017 Chalo Nagpur campaign. Now, Meena Gopal, in her article Towards Greater Civility, writes about this. In fact, basically, Abhinaya Kamble also has written, she talks about the resolution, but then Meena Gopal brings out the other side of it. So, the Chalo Nagpur campaign was basically organized on 10th March 2017, and here you had thousands of women, tribal, Dalits, Muslims, differently abled, then sex workers, then LGBTQI, and persons from diverse social locations who gathered in Nagpur under the slogan Chalo Nagpur to celebrate the 120th anniversary of Savitribai Phule, considered the first woman teacher in Maharashtra. Now, basically, this particular initiative had been conceived, it had been organized, and it has been funded by many women and also by many organizations. And the reason for having chosen Nagpur was because this was the venue of the largest women's conference organized by Dr. Ambedkar under the banner of Scheduled Caste Federation. So basically, when there was a talk about building of solidarity and everything, what Meena Gopal points out to is the kind of discord which took place, which between the Dalit feminist and the non-Dalit feminist when it came to the issue of sex workers, when it came to the issue of performance. And here you have Meena Gopal's very powerful observation that Dalit feminists who since 2009 had a long engagement of trust with non-Dalit feminists were willing to listen to the voices of the Dalit feminists who were feminist and yet performed sexual labor. But again, there was no consensus among the various Dalit feminist voices, with the multiplicity of oppositions transmitting diverse energies and also impulses. So I just wanted to bring out that this issue is still alive. So there is this whole discourse, I mean, not exactly you can say discord, but a kind of a productive tension when it comes to the relations between Dalit women and also non-Dalit women's organizations. Second is the Kailanji, this massacre in Maharashtra, which happened on September 29, 2006. I think the previous paper presenter was talking about it. And of course, where you had 4 members of the Bhutmange family, mother and the 2 daughters and the son, who had been massacred. However, no case was filed under the Prevention of the Atrocities Act, not under the rape laws. So Dalit women organizations were extremely dissatisfied with the response of the Dalit political leadership and also women's groups. You can refer to Anand Teltunde's article related to this. Now, so basically the response of mainstream women's organization. The third case is that to the Hathras case, and this also voiced the difference again and also questioned the understanding of caste by Indian women's movement. So comparing the response of women's group to the 2012 Delhi rape case and the Hathras rape case, we have Smita Patil, who is writing who in a very powerful article which was published in EPW in 2020 or 21. She's basically asking that does this kind of brutal oppression of Dalit women signify that hegemonic dominant feminist groups have never addressed the politics of Hindu religion in a powerful manner? Second point she says is that most feminists, liberals and progressive sections of society have been vocal about the Hathras rape case without addressing the nuances of caste, violence and patriarchy after consistent critique about this by marginalized social movements and also activists. And the last observation is a very powerful one, which I think we should engage with, is that she says that assertions of Dalit women are being crushed both by culture of rape in India. This is Smita Patil, and this is in fact in this EPW Engage. Okay, so therefore the articulation of a new political agenda has basically demands as Rao, that is basically Anupama Rao has basically argued that the exploration of Dalit has basically argues for the exploration of Dalit women's shared and entangled histories. Dalit feminist basically argues that we rethink the genealogy of Indian feminism in order to engage meaningfully with Dalit women's these differences, unquote. So therefore, Dalit Bahujan feminists reframe the question of how do we understand the complex history as a form of identification and also as a structure of disfranchisement and also that of exploitation. And the next question is that how do we revisit the forgotten and repressed histories that illuminate the criticism of feminism by its most vulnerable and also exploited constituency. Very powerful quotes, which basically Anupama Rao, this is the essay written in 2002, but I think after 2 decades, this points are still basically valid, that how do we revisit the forgotten and repressed histories, and also how do we basically illuminate the criticism of, you can say, feminism, that is this unmarked Indian feminism, by its most vulnerable and also exploited constituency. So it is in this context that Sharmila Rege, a non-Dalit feminist, I know that basically everybody knows Rege, and also, I mean, basically everybody has also read about the, I mean, about the essay, but nonetheless, yeah, so Dalit, so it is in this context that, where am I? Yeah, that Rege, a non-Dalit feminist, while she does agree to the need for Dalit women to name the difference, argued for a Dalit feminist standpoint that would require non-Dalit feminists to reinvent themselves as Dalit feminists. I think this is a very important point. So, and I quote from her, a Dalit feminist standpoint that emerges from the practices and struggles of Dalit women may originate in the work of Dalit feminist intellectuals, but it cannot flourish if it is isolated from the experiences and ideas of other groups, and must educate itself about the histories, preferred social relations, the utopias, and the struggles of the marginalized, unquote. Rege further argues that this vision is basically transformative and also emancipatory in nature, and it will also avoid quote the narrow alley of direct experience based on authenticity and a narrow identity politics, unquote. Now, Smita Patel, in her essay Revitalizing Dalit Feminism, will basically expand on this idea of this emancipatory politics to argue that Dalit feminist knowledge can creatively engage with certain anti-Brahmanic intellectual trends within sexual minorities assertion. In fact, she bemoans the lack of solidarity among the Dalits, Adivasis, religious minorities after the repeal of Section 377. The questions raised by her are worth engaging with. And this is, I quote from her essay, is it possible for the diverse streams within the progressive left and feminist organization to declare its Brahmanic nature of leadership, theory, and practice? The form of political economy operationalized through caste, class, and gender in India is challenged by Dalit feminism, thus providing the recovery of Dalit studies. Of course, she's jumping off to another point. Providing the recovery of Dalit studies from its depoliticized institutionalization, unquote. Therefore, the difference is therefore what makes Dalit feminists make a demand for historicizing the structures of forgetting and also exploring the hidden histories of hurt and humiliations, and thereby underscores the contemporary claim for including caste as a significant category of social life. And this is the observation made by Anupama Rao, where she's talking about the need to include caste as a very important component. I don't know from which background most of the participants are, but since I'm from literature, in fact, I know that in most literature classes we still don't engage with caste the way it should be. So therefore, I just like to share this, that I would like to refer to James Manner, this analysis of caste, in his prologue to Rajni Kothari's very famous book, Caste in Indian Politics, published in 2019. He has made several points, but I would like to point out to his one basic argument, which is basically relevant to our understanding of caste. In fact, you also have scholars like Suhas Palsekar and Christopher Jaffrel, who has been asking about that we need to think about caste, especially after the advent of globalization, where caste cannot be divorced from class. But however, James Manner is basically challenging that particular proposition, and especially after the rise of the Dalit middle class and after the kind of politics which we are witnessing, these issues become really important. The reason why I'm raising this point is that because most of the Dalit writers belong to the Dalit middle class. The second point is that when these writers are writing, they have almost moved up the class. There is a kind of a certain, you can say, I mean, this upward mobility. And let's not forget that literature is one of the very important defining points of the middle class, or basically the you can say, and this emerging this bourgeois. Okay, so therefore he says that as far as caste in contemporary India is concerned, it is less to do with hierarchy and more with difference. I want to point out that the manner in which difference is being understood coming from the feminist point of view, coming from the feminist point of view, the way we talk about it, and the way in fact he's talking about this difference does make a it is different. Yeah. Okay. Here is. Okay, so therefore he says that contemporary India is less to do with hierarchy and more with difference. The caption has been turned on. Sorry, can I mean, have I turned on the caption? No. Can I have a?
Ma'am, you're visible now.
No, I know you're visible, but why have you turned on the caption? That's what I want to know. Okay, fine.
Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah, I mean, do you think that we need the caption? If it is fine, I don't mind. Okay. Yeah. So he has made, yeah. So he would like to, the first point he says is that caste is to do with hierarchy and is to do less with hierarchy, which it was in the past, and it is more with difference. Then he says that there is a decline in the power of old hierarchies in the public sphere, and this has contributed to greater visibility. Secondly, caste refers to Varna, Jati and Jati cluster. Okay, so in modern India, multiple jatis which pursue similar occupations have been branded together in the jati clusters and have described themselves as caste in order to maximize their hope of gaining advantage in the public sphere. The second point, which is related to the process of secularization of caste, and here he also he talks about the de-ritualization of caste, and I'm going to quote from him. So here you have Manner quoting the very well-known, renowned social scientist D.L. Sathe, and he's talking about this whole understanding, this basically de-ritualization. So by de-ritualization, Manner is quoting Sathe. Sathe means the delinking of caste from various forms of rituality which bounded it to a fixed status and occupation and to specific rules of commensality and also endogamy. The hierarchically ordered strata of caste now function as horizontal groups competing for power and control over resources in society. And also this, along with this structural change, the form consciousness has also changed. The whole caste consciousness, of course, has changed. If you really witness what is happening in India with the manner in which Hindutva, you can say, politics has taken over the caste politics, the way they are redefining it somewhere does help us. So caste membership is now more in the nature of community consciousness rather than in hierarchical terms, and is now articulated as political consciousness, which is a different kind of collective consciousness from that of belonging to a high or low ritual status group. So then you have D.L. Sathe. He basically stresses structural differences within caste. So he says that households within a single caste have not only been gradually differentiated in terms of their occupation, educational and income levels and lifestyles, but these differences have led them to align outside the caste with different socio-economic networks and groupings in the society, categories which cannot be identified in terms of the caste system. So therefore you have Manner saying that these changes have resulted in caste entering into various new larger political formulations and to a new form of collective consciousness different from that of the ritual status group. Yet the new consciousness is not that of a class. I think this is a very important point, because lately you have been told by, as I said, by many political scientists, that caste and class has to be understood, but he says that this cannot be understood at a class. Rather, he says this is based on a perception of common political interest. These changes have resulted in caste entering into various new larger political formulations and to a new form of collective consciousness, different from that of a ritual status group. Yet the new consciousness is not that of a class. It is, quote, based on a perception of common political interest and modern status aspirations. In the process, the unitary consciousness of individual caste had become diffused into an expanded consciousness of belonging to a larger social political formation which cannot be described as a caste or a class, unquote. Now, I know that this may, especially in a literature class and the way we teach and the way our students, as I was listening to the previous presentation, talk about Dalit feminism or for that matter talk about caste is something, it's something we don't engage with this. I don't know whether I'm talking from my point of view, but the point is that if you see in recent times, if you see the manner in which voting pattern is changing, especially in rural India, the manner in which caste articulations are changing, I think we have to keep in mind that caste is not the same what basically the way it was understood, say 100 years back. Some basic, of course, there is discrimination, there is humiliation, there is oppression, there's no doubt about it, but that nature of that is changing. And I think I think Anjan, I'll just come to your question later. But I think this understanding of caste as an aspirational group, which is neither caste nor class, is something I think which we still, at least which we need to engage with. Okay, now I move on to the next point, which is basically the other point which I would like to talk about, that Dalit feminist perspective is located within the emerging discipline of Dalit studies. And Dalit studies, we know, is a part of it's a still emerging scholarship which has provided a critique of the singular and homogeneous understanding of colonialism as a structure of oppression. You have Gopal Guru and you have all the others. Basically there you have that basically the subalterns have benefited from the colonial state protocols and have charted their own history, which has challenged the notion of essentialism prevailing in Indian nationalist historiography. In this context, the emergence of Dalit counter-publics is very important, and they of course emerge as site of resistance. Now, Dalit women were also I don't know what, my camera has just gone off. In this context, Dalit women were also part of this counter publics and have also contributed and have also contributed to the Ambedkarite movement. And this has been documented very well by Urmila Pawar and Meenakshi Moon in their seminal book titled We Also Made History, which was written in Marathi and which was translated by Vandana Sonalkar. I would like to read out the authors, what they basically describe in the preface. So normally when we talk about Dalit feminism, the political consciousness was there, and of course you also have Shailaja Pak, who is talking about fully Ambedkarite feminism. So I think there is a long history. Of course, it is from 90s that Dalit feminist voices are very vocal, but apart from that, there is a long history which I think is basically important for us to engage with. So here you have the preface of this very seminal book, We Also Made History, where the authors has basically described their undertaking, and I quote, "The purpose of doing all this was to try and form a picture of the neglected, underrated women activist of the Ambedkar movement, this capabilities, the history she had made in the most adverse the circumstances, the change that took place in her because of that history, the way she was shaped and influenced, her longing for education and a deep feeling for the importance of education, her ethical integrity, her courage, and her development as an individual. We wanted to bring her contribution into public view." Finally, and then you have the translator has rightly pointed out, that is Vandana Sonalkar says that the experiences and struggles of women in the Ambedkar movement this intersect with intersect with India's path to modernity, and in this turn it throws up disturbing questions. And we all know about the whole history of, you can say, India's, engage, that is the Nehruvian states, this engagement with a truncated modernity. Now, with this, I come to the end to the first part of my paper. In the second part of the paper, I'll briefly engage with the perspective which is thrown up by Dalit feminism and its impact on this institutional pedagogy. Now, before I begin, I think I would just like to quote briefly from Satish Deshpande's very famous essay. Satish Deshpande's very famous essay. Just give me a second. Yeah. Deshpande's very famous essay, that is Caste and Castelessness towards a biography of the general category. Now, when we talk about higher education space, normally, even if caste is present, there's of course, it's in the form and of course the manner. It also reflects the status resolution to the question of caste, and this in turn means that basically caste belongs only to the lower caste. Caste is not an issue of the upper caste who basically enjoy the privileges. Caste is only an issue of the lower caste. Caste is only an issue of the lower caste. It really does not concern that of the you can say the upper, the dominant caste. So now in the Indian classrooms, normally the manner, I'm not generalizing. Please remember, I'm just talking from my own experience, from what I have seen and all. So this is, in that experience, I would like to see that basically that although there is a commitment to address caste, although there was a commitment to redress caste injustice, which was integral to the social contract upon which the nation was founded, and this is the new constitution, constrained the victims of caste to demand demand justice as a caste marked this exception, while its beneficiaries were empowered to demand the perpetuation of the advantages as a casteless norm. Neither route led towards the annihilation or also basically, the diminishing of caste, but in dominant common sense, one route is presented as having already passed a destination, while the other is accused of leading us away from it. In our time, it is the unbridgeable divergence of these two routes in the unshakable internal the certainties that make the annihilation of caste seem more like a disabling dream rather than an empowering utopia. I think this is very important because especially after the death of Payal Tadvi, I hope all of you know, this happened almost in 2018-19. Okay, the death, she was a medical student, the manner it operates, the manner in which, the fact that caste never plays a important role in basically deciding the pedagogy. So I just would like to point out what Rege has spoken about this. In fact, this is a very powerful essay of Rege, which she had delivered at SNDT Women's University. And I would just like to point out a few points, and with that, I'll also be ending my presentation. So basically, she's talking about the manner in which, we basically engage with this, you can say, this Dalit women autobiographies. It's also important that she's also pointing out that post-Mandal, and of course that, there has been a shift in the demography of, you can say, Indian classrooms. You also have many first-generation learners. So what is the impact of all this on your pedagogy? So basically, she says that she's talking, of course, in the context of the engagement with Dalit women autobiographies. Located within the discourse of participation, the narrative teases out questions of pedagogy and authority, which is related to empathetic engagement with what Sharmila Rege has described as a Dalit imagination. The process of empathetic engagement introduces new vocabularies for imagining the nation and calls for questioning of quote assumed hierarchy of different knowledges, archives, and methods of knowledge, unquote, and simultaneously foregrounds the experience of caste to challenge the feudal backwardness of Hinduism normalized in educational practices. I just repeat, challenges the feudal backwardness of Hinduism, which has been, this normalized in educational practices. The site of this engagement is the classroom, and by extension, the academy, which is part of the larger institutional space, which quote domesticates and manages differences and the inequalities, and also enables struggles against domination. Therefore, the need to develop pedagogies as a political project. This is the important. Therefore, she talks about the need to develop pedagogy as a political project. I wish if there are teachers, we can talk about this. That, and of course, she is basically, this is coming from critical pedagogy. This she's also she's basically borrowing from this pedagogy of the oppressed. She's borrowing from bell hooks concept of the feminist classroom. So therefore she says the need to develop pedagogies as a political project, along with the search for an alternative subject position for teachers and students. It is in this context that Rege elucidates upon the Phule Ambedkarite pedagogical perspective to challenge the academic practices where caste and gender are co-opted within the disciplinary grid without changing the core disciplinary contours. And I quote for her, the difference, quote unquote, the difference of Phule Ambedkarite pedagogical perspective lies in a double articulation that conceives education not only in terms of cultures of learning and teaching, but also dissenting against that which is learned and taught by dominant cultural practices. This entails constituting teachers and students as modern truth seekers and agents of social transformation who seek to become a light unto themselves. The methods are those that seek to integrate the principles of critical understanding with empathetic love and also equality. This democratization of knowledge of education marks the Phule Ambedkarite perspective from methods based on binary of reason and emotion, private and public, assumption of neutral objectivity, and the celebration of this experience that inform much of our teaching and research. So basically, I think what Dalit feminism forces us as teachers and also as researchers also to engage with our pedagogy. And I think what is important is pedagogy as a political project, and also pedagogy which will teach us to dissent, and which is also teach us self-reflexibility. So I think with this I end my presentation, and I look forward to questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sathe.
Okay,
There is a question here by Mr. Ranjan Shaha. Does the politics of Hindutva subsume caste or simply accommodate caste following the big tent approach?
I will tell you, Mr. Shah, that this is, frankly speaking, what we are witnessing now is that Hindutva politics is, of course, trying to say that Hindu society is a homogeneous society, and therefore that we don't have any caste. If you see what is happening, but apart from that, I think if you, this is of course not a simple question, but we can look at the work by Christopher Jaffro, who has been researching on this. And I think that basically what the Hindutva project is doing is basically to subsume caste under the larger homogeneous project of creating the Hindu Rashtra. I don't know whether I've answered the question or not. I would like to see the participants. I think yes. Any other question?
Mr. Anjan Shaha has also requested if you could kindly share the names of some books or journals on this. So, madam, if you could send it to our email ID, we would share
I'll do it. I will do it. Definitely. I will do it. Definitely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, madam.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I can quit. I can leave. That's the end of my session.
Yes. Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
a very incisive presentation.
Thank you. Yeah.